My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and
plus
beer.
years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Saying community policing, right? What about community dispatching?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset.
Right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here of Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the raspy dispatcher. I've said it before. I've said it again. I'll say it again. You know, I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so I am very excited to have a couple of dispatchers, homegrown from San Jose Police Department, join me today to talk about their journey, their department, and their recruiting efforts over at San Jose Police Department. So today with me is Laura and Tonia from, again, San Jose Police Department. Thank you, ladies, for jumping on with me today.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You guys, like I said earlier, like my first duo. So I had to figure out how to put two people on and do that. So thank you for that learning opportunity.
Yes, it worked.
So tell me a little bit about your guys' journey, how you got into dispatching, policing. Maybe we start with Laura and then go to Tonia.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for having us. Also, we're super excited to be here with you, and it's awesome that you're Bay Area too. So it feels like it all makes sense. I actually joined San Jose Police Department 20 years ago. I was about 28 years old, and I kind of fell into it. I don't have anybody in law enforcement. It really wasn't a passion or anything that I thought I wanted to do. My trajectory at the time, I was planning on going to the Marine Corps, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but that's where I thought this would be a good starting point for me to kind of get some education, get some responsibility pushed into me, and so on and so forth. And I ended up in a pretty bad car accident. I got hit by a drunk driver, and it shut all that down immediately. I spent a couple of months really kind of figuring out, well, what am I going to do at this point? I didn't plan on this. And I ended up taking a class over at Evergreen Valley College near my house. They had a non-affiliate program for people that were interested in being a dispatcher. I think it was like a 2-week course, and you could just go and kind of see what it was all about. And that's what I did. And I really only did it because it was close to home, and I felt the pressure of my parents kind of pushing on me to what's your plan? Plan A isn't working out. So what's plan B? And from that point on, I just kind of kept my eye open on any Bay Area jobs for that. And when I saw that San Jose opened up, I was born and raised in San Jose. It's, my backyard, and all my childhood has happened there. And I was like, let's give it a shot. It was a pretty different time. Now our groups are much smaller, but at the time when I went through 20 years ago, I think the first post test, there was probably 500 or 600 people trying for 14 positions. And so just going through all of that, I mean, as we know, it takes almost a year just to push through each step. So it was quite a different time for me back then. And it's interesting to see how that number has dwindled, but it's so true about people just not knowing what our job is and what it really looks like. And if you don't know a dispatcher or you don't work in law enforcement, you really have no clue what this job really is about. And that was so true for me because I'm not from a law enforcement family. But once I got in there, I knew almost immediately that this, the trajectory happened for a reason. And it was super where I was supposed to be. So 20 years later, and I'm super happy. And I have the light of retirement is not that far away. And it's been an incredible 20 years. So.
Yeah. And that post test, let me tell you, I feel like that post test is a beast now. So I would imagine back then it was probably super intimidating on its own, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily remember the test itself, but what I remember was the crowd. Yeah. I remember seeing about 7 or 8. It was held at the convention center. And I remember seeing about 7 or 8 San Jose police dispatchers at the time there, all helping, checking tables set up, checking people in, just lines and crowds of people. And then we went into one of the convention halls with all the long tables set up and, 8 or 9 proctors walking around. And I just remember thinking, there's no way I'm going to get this. They got 14 positions. There's like 1 million people in this room. It's not going to happen. But, what do you do at the time? I didn't have other options on my plate. So you keep just going through. Oh, okay, I passed. I went to the next step. And, that's all you can hope for, right, at the time, but much different.
Totally. And how about you, Tonia? How was your experience getting into this line of work?
So Laura keeps saying she didn't come from a law enforcement family because I did come from a law enforcement family. My dad was a sergeant here with our agency and kept on telling me, like, you should come and work with us. And I'm like, no way. I cry at commercials. I cry at watching soap operas. I cry at movies. There's no way I could do a job like that. And I worked at a local high school here, and I was the assistant principal who was in charge of discipline, her secretary. So the pay job officers there were like, hey, you need to become a dispatcher. Like fights would happen. They were like, hey, who was that kid we had in the office last week? And I'd say, oh, so-and-so. And so they were like, you have what it takes. You should come and do this. So my dad retired. And then 5 years later, I tested and got hired. And, thankful for the officers. My dad was like, you could have been here close to retirement like Laura. But it's been an amazing experience. Starting from, I grew up in this department. My dad was an officer. We used to go to the cafeteria that we have on site at like 5 or 6 years old when I was sick. Stayed home from school. My dad's like, you want to go to James? So I've been going there forever. And it's neat. Like, it's neat to come from a family legacy, right? And my sister just joined our department as a call taker. So the tradition, is not left with me. Like, she's going to carry that on. So, and just knowing that, we are a big family, inside of work now, outside of work.
Dad was probably like, oh, so you waited till I retired before applying, huh?
Yeah.
Got a little personal.
Yeah. And it was good because when I first started, everyone was like, oh, that's Charlie Brown's daughter. That's Charlie Brown's daughter. I'm like, hi, I have a name. My name is Tonia. Yes, my name is Tonia, not Charlie Brown's daughter.
That is hilarious. But isn't that so funny? Like, I always find that that's kind of how the dispatch world works. Like, you either know somebody or you're in it, like through family or someone. I always say someone tricks you into it, or you just kind of stumble into it for whatever reason, like needing a job or good benefits, or and it just becomes this wonderful career and choice you made along the line.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So what are your guys' roles at San Jose Police Department and with recruiting and things of that nature? Obviously, you guys reached out to me to jump onto this podcast to talk about the department and your recruiting. So I would say that you guys are going above and beyond, right? Trying to get people in the door. And I think that speaks wonders for, the leadership you guys have in your comm center.
Yes. We recently did just get a new comm manager, but she has been with us she's almost ready to retire too. At least 25 years, right? And basically grew up in the department the same. Was a call taker, was a radio dispatcher, a senior, a supervisor, assistant comm manager, and now our comm manager, right? And so our leadership is changing, and I think that we are going in a great direction. I am the civilian recruiter for our department, so I do handle communications, our records, OSSD, and then community service officers when they have openings. So basically right now, just focusing on getting people, going out to career fairs, going out to schools, kind of getting our name out there. I work in the recruiting unit with the police officers. So I am not in our comm center right now. So we travel, and this is a new thing here to have a civilian dispatcher go out with the officers to recruit. So going to a lot of events, there's not a lot of dispatchers out there. And I think it's a great tool if we're able to do it. Staffing, I know, it sucks in a lot of agencies, and almost every agency, everybody's hurting for dispatchers. So being able to, sacrifice somebody who's not working in the control room, is a big thing. And so I appreciate our leadership for allowing that to happen, and just kind of, getting everybody on the same track. Like Laura was saying, when we first started, we went into a room with 700 people, same thing, 1,000 people. No way am I going to get chosen out of these 14, for 14 positions, right? And we went into that blindly. I had heard about it. I did a sit along, but that was kind of it. A lot of people now are applying and have no idea what we do. And so, like what I said, when Laura and I started, we have since created an information system session. So it's mandatory. Once you submit your application and you pass, you have to attend a mandatory information system session. That is we go over the job, the commitment, 24/7. Make sure that you have a good support system at home. Make sure that you are aware that you probably are going to miss some holidays. Not every holiday. We try to work with everybody. But just making sure that people are aware of what they are committing to, because it's a huge commitment. But it's one of the most rewarding commitments that you'll ever make, right? Is doing this job.
No, true.
So setting people up for success. So there's that a mandatory information system session. We test Criticall. So I do an optional workshop for Criticall to help people get through that. Ashley, know all about that. Success. I've been referring. You are actually a part of my PowerPoint for Criticall now, for people to go and to view your YouTube and get some help with tips and tricks. Because it's common sense, but typing, people say I can type 75 words a minute. Our typing is not that back and forth, read something and type. It's a lot about audio. So give them the tips and tricks that they need in order to successfully pass Criticall. And then an optional oral board workshop. We didn't have that when, coming through the process. So just preparing candidates to be their best, to be able to come through to make sure that they are successful, in this process. And it's a long process. Unfortunately, right now, backgrounds process for us is 6 months. So we try to streamline the front half. But I am accepting applications right now for a September 2023 academy. So you want a job in a year? Come see me. That's crazy.
But it's so true. I mean, it's funny because I've had folks like on the YouTube channel like, oh, I'm waiting for this job. Should I work another job? And the answer's like, yeah, because you never know when this job is gonna hit. And right, a lot of departments either outsource their backgrounds, or their background department does police, does HR, does the whole thing for the city, and they just get backlogged. So anything you can do to help your process along, talking to the folks who are on your background pamphlet, like look out for this, respond in a timely manner. All those things really, really, really do matter.
Right.
And then Laura, go ahead.
I was saying, yes, definitely. All those things matter.
Yeah. And so Laura, what is your role and position with the department?
So right now I'm one of the senior dispatchers in there. So I'm one of the frontline supervisors, and I get to do, I always say it took me, excuse me, it took me, probably 16 years to promote, because, being on the radio is absolutely my first love. And it was a hard sell to get me away from that. But now still being able to be in the room and still have my hands, over the people that are doing the amazing work, that's what really kind of fuels me and makes me happy that I ended up changing roles. And also, but even with the new, recruits coming in, after Tonia puts in all the work of getting them there and preparing them and trying to set them up for success to make a good decision, then they come into the room and we're able to, help nurture that environment after they go through an in-house academy that we have. And, setting them up with CTOs and supporting them and, front loading them, in a way that, like we said, we weren't front loaded that way. We weren't front loaded about wellness and about what is this going to look like for you as outside of here? How is your family going to be affected? And how to manage all of those things, because we want people to come and we want people to stay, because I know, and and all of us that have done it, that it truly is one of the most rewarding things that you really could ever do. It's an exciting career. It's a secure career too. I mean, we all found that out during the pandemic. You know,
That's
we turned
true.
super essential those 2 years, right?
Yeah.
You know, but
Everyone was like, I spent at home. I was like, nope, I'm going to work.
I'm working overtime. I don't know what you guys are doing,
Yeah.
but yeah, we took an overtime pounding, as we know, right? But I mean, that's the nice thing, is that's the role that I have right now. So, you know, I, like I said, been there for 20 years. I was able to spend 12 years as a CTO, my other passion, teaching, and, you know, trying to help folks not just learn the mechanics and the fundamentals of it, but to love it like I did, because I think you do have to love it. You have to have something inside you that keeps you there. And hopefully now with the younger generation coming through, and, you know, we're seeing all different folks come through for different reasons, but I believe that people choose this kind of job. There's something in them that are ready, that makes them choose a job like this, where you're in public service and helping others. And so you really do have to foster that for them and help them see, like, what does that look like in this room? And what does it look like to take care of yourself so that you can continue to give? Because essentially that's what it is. We make so many deposits, right, of help and care and comfort to so many people, to the citizens, to each other. But what does that look like for you, so that you can, like, withstand the test of time and the longevity and keep it going? Those are things we were not front loaded with. So as we've grown up in the department, and we're learning and evolving, and we're realizing, like, that is an essential component, and that's something that we should absolutely be talking about as much as we can. So it's kind of nice, right, with the things that Tonia's able to do out in the field that we were not able to do before. It's, like she said, essentially kind of a new component for us. But I mean, what a nice component it is, you know, because the conversation is the same from the recruiting table to when you show up in the front door and you start working on the floor with your CTO, you know?
Yeah, no, and I was going to say, Tonia, your mention about the fact that dispatch hasn't been out in the recruiting world the way, like, our officers, you know, they always have their table at some event. And, you know, dispatch, I believe, as well, has been kind of secluded from that. Or, like, they'll put out, like, a recruitment reel, and there's, like, 1 second snap of, like, a dispatcher, and that's it. Like, that's it. And it's just like, no, we need people too. We need to split that segment in half, you know? So I've been, even in my old department, I have a lot of friends who are still there, and a lot of them are actually involved in the recruiting aspect now. A lot of them, I'm like, I never even thought you'd go out and recruit, but they're out there alongside, you know, the officer recruiting, getting the word out about dispatch. And I definitely think it's needed, especially because there are a lot of folks who want to be in this line of work, in the field of first response. And then they figured out somewhere along the way that, like, being out there responding to the calls, whatever line of work it is, isn't for them. So, like, how can they still get that same rewarding feeling and help folks, but not have to, you know, look at it, see it, smell it, you know, all that stuff. And dispatch, I think, is such a wonderful answer to those folks who decide not to go into the field for whatever their reasons are.
Yeah. I think that our blessing in disguise was when we were actually classified as first responders.
Yeah.
I think that is what brought the light for us, and helped us to be able to come out and say, we've been fighting all this time to say, like you're saying, hey, we're here, but now we are first responders. We are also, you know, the first responders. So that gave us a good leg to be able to come out and say, you know, we should be on the platform just as anybody else should be.
Yeah.
And we should be answering the questions. You know, I mean, it's nice and, you know, kind for the officers to take a pamphlet or two, but that you want to see the people that are doing the work. It's the same thing, you know, and it's a great opportunity for the folks that we have to do something different, right? I mean, they're in the control room working in this controlled environment, you know, day in and day out. And we keep telling them, this is an awesome job, you should be proud. This is an awesome job, you should be proud. But they actually get to put that into action if they get to be a part of, like, we have a satellite recruiting team that we're able to, so where Tonia can, like, hey, I need a couple people for this, or I need a couple people for that. This is a little collateral thing that we can offer our folks so that they're also putting in a little bit more, investing a little bit more, sinking their roots just a little bit deeper. And it's those kind of things, I believe, that is really what helped people stay, because we know the retention, right? Retention is also an issue. So we're trying to get creative with ways of how do we help people sink their feet in a little deeper to stay. And one of the best ways, I think, is to get them talking about what they do, because people that are doing this job are really here because they really have something in them that sparks the desire to do for others. So send them out, let them talk about it a little bit. If that doesn't kind of recharge your battery, I don't know what does, but I think it's a great opportunity. It's twofold for us to be able to have a face out there, but for our folks to also do something a little different. Get outside, get out of the control room, get off the phones, and put your face out there. You're not a voice anymore. You're a face at the table, and it's important.
Yeah, and I think that's so awesome. And again, I'm gonna speak to what I'm hearing from your guys' department is that these things are important to folks who are looking to get into careers, right? Like, who am I going to work for? How are they going to empower me? And there are some people out there just like, I just want to show up. I want to do my little 12-hour shift. I want to go home. And that's totally fine. But there are a lot of people who are in these centers and are wanting to do more, wanting to impact their centers more, and wanting to help with, look, I got 30 hours of overtime, mandatory overtime. I want more people in these seats so I don't have to work. How can I help, my department get people into these seats? And the fact that you guys are allowing these avenues for, your dispatchers to get involved in that process, I think it is super helpful with morale and, their personal career goals, because they might going out, interacting with the citizens, the other parts of the department that we don't really, we get put back in our little dungeon and we don't get to see a lot of folks, but giving us the opportunity to put names and faces, especially at the big department like San Jose. I think that really does go a long way for the retention aspect of our current dispatchers, because we need more folks in the seats, but we need the folks in the seats currently to be happy about the seats they're in, right?
You're right about that. Because if there's nobody that's going to scare off a new recruit, like a veteran dispatcher, right?
But I do think it speaks to like the importance of your role in comm centers and leaders on the comm floor throughout our centers, right? Is we, of course, we as dispatchers are all responsible for the amount of toxicity or not toxicity that we're bringing into our centers, right? But I think a lot of times folks are looking for the leaders in their centers, their supervisors or leads, whatever, however it's, putting your guys' org chart in your centers out there, is they're really looking for strong folks in that role to help empower them. Because sometimes folks can't empower themselves, which is okay. And it sounds like you guys are creating a very nice pot for people to really, reach in and get what they need from their leadership, from their department, and be involved in it overall.
Yeah.
We're trying to, I think. Yeah,
I
we're
think
trying
that's
to.
a part of our, our new leadership and a big change that, like Laura was saying, 10, 12 years ago, we weren't so touchy-feely. We weren't so, and we have to adjust with the times. Like that's what our applicants need, right? So we have to provide those workshops to help them. We have to provide, give them that service, to be in contact with them 24/7. Because the minute that you are not in a year-long process, I haven't heard from them. So that must mean that I didn't get the job. Okay, I'm going to go test with another agency, right? And we don't want that.
That is so true, because I've had people message me like, I haven't heard from them in like 2 weeks. Like, what does that mean? It's like nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just such a long process, and it's hard to sit down and wait during it. It really is.
Yeah.
Right.
But for anyone listening,
if you're not providing that in the beginning, right, letting them know like applications are open, but you're not going to hear anything until they don't close until January 23rd. So from now until January 23rd, don't be surprised if you don't hear anything. It doesn't mean anything. Applications are just open for that long. Then when they close, you'll hear something. And just letting them know like what the next step is, right? I think it is helping in the retention a lot.
So you guys reach out to your applicants once they get through like the Criticall process, or like what is your, because I think for my department, when I was being recruited, They were really good at responding to us if we had any ongoing questions or anything like that. I never felt alone in the process. And to be fair, they got us through really quickly. I think they really needed people in the seats. I think it was like 8 months maybe total, which is pretty fast, I would say, to get through every step, including backgrounds. But they typically would respond to my emails. Once I was free and clear, they gave me like type codes and things like that to kind of start peeking at before I came into the door. So what does that communication process look like for you guys, being a very big agency and still trying to keep that human connection between your potential applicants?
Yeah, I think it's always an evolving process. What we're finding out, what works. So after the info session, everybody comes to the info session, and then we are trying to streamline our testing process with us before they go to backgrounds. So maybe like a 2 to 3 week window. We just closed an application where everything was done in a week.
Wow.
Your info session was on Monday, Criticall was on Wednesday, oral boards were on Sunday. That was a little fast, not a lot of time for some prep for retaking. So okay, now we're going to spread it out a little bit more, right? But I tell my applicants from the very beginning, like if you need me, email me. I answer my emails Sundays. For me, it's my job. It's what I do. And I love, I want to stay connected to our applicants to make sure that if they have any questions that we are here, right? We started a new process after Criticall, before oral boards. They go and do a sit-along. So I just gave Laura a list of people. Hey, can you schedule these people in the control room to come and do a sit-along? So before their oral board, they'll be able to say, I went and did a sit-along. And they kind of know like what that looks like. Our comm center does not have any windows. And for somebody, that may be a big deal, not being able to, and you hate for somebody to go through this whole process, be so excited, and then come day one, get in the control room and say, I can't sit in here. I can't sit in a room with no windows, right? So just, again, like Laura was saying, front loading them with as much information as we can, and being in contact with them along the way.
Yeah. And I think too, with the sit along, it really gives them an idea of like not just the logistics of the room, but really what the work really looks like. We at our center, we're our call takers and radio dispatchers are 2 different classifications. So we're able to give them an hour on the phones with a call taker, listening to the citizens and working through all that. And then we move them over and give them an hour on the radio. And they get to really see the 2 different roles and how they play together. But it really just what we want is front load them, but also give them an opportunity to say like if you come join our team, this is it, right? This is what you're looking at. But I think for us, everything that we have from the recruiting process and efforts to all the application process that we put them through, and then if they finally make it into the academy, we have a state-of-the-art, in-house academy that runs for 6 and 8 weeks, where they are front-loaded with instructors and test, and like you said, getting the packets ahead of time to study, giving them an opportunity to bond with their academy mates, so that when they come into the control room, they feel like they have some sense of community for themselves, which helps, because we know the control room is a scary place, and it is not the classroom where we are having fun and games and we're eating candy as prizes and all that good stuff. But it's a process, and it's definitely like, getting them from point A to point B with as much information and setting them up for as much success. And I know that every time applicants come in and do sit-alongs, and at the end of it, and I usually walk them out or have a conversation with them. So what did you think? What are your thoughts? And most of the time they're pretty impressed. They're pretty shocked and wow, like I had no idea. And it's a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but it's a good thing, I think, because, it gives an opportunity to say, like, the folks here that are doing this work, like when you're working for an agency of this size, like these are top-notch people. They are skilled, they are dedicated, and they do incredible work every day. And you would potentially get to come be a part of that. And if they happen to get a hot call, or if they happen to hear some really good radio traffic, which again, we're we're a huge busy agency. It's very likely that they will.
Yeah.
They really get to walk away with the sense, because there's nothing worse than a sit along that nothing happens. And then I'm like, oh, so
I have to say, San Jose, it probably something always probably at least one thing
is popping off,
or
right? Right. But that, to me, that's the worst sit along, right? You come in and you go, yeah, no, nothing really happened. And they walk out thinking that, oh, it's kind of chill.
Yeah.
You kick back, you kind of this and that. And it's like, that's
the
worst.
Weird day.
Yeah, that's the worst for me. I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted you to see, right? I
I'm
wanted
like,
you to
oh
see,
no, that means that person might be a poo magnet, because when they start getting, they're
Right.
like quiet, get quieted down when they're there just training, and then they come in there and it's just on and popping,
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's front loading them for success. It's letting the people in the control room shine so brightly, because they do. The CTOs that they would get an opportunity to work with, again, skilled, knowledgeable, dedicated, passionate, all the things that you want in somebody who is teaching, and who is there to help get you down the path. Those are the things that matter. And then once they get signed off, again, keeping the reinforcement of like, what you're doing is important. Like, drop your roots a little bit farther. What opportunities can we create for you to feel better, to feel happier, to feel more joyful in the long days at work, right? So, let's think about being a CTO at some point and sharing your knowledge. Dispatch response team, satellite recruiting. You want to get out and talk about all the amazing stuff you do? Let's do that, So making opportunities for them to just invest a little bit more. That, to me, I think, is how the retention issue is. We can keep that a little bit more under control. And it seems to work well, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, the sit along aspect, I mean, it's so true. Like, I think for me, when I went in for my sit along, like, that was the moment I was like, oh, I could totally do this job. Like, this is cool. I had a really, really good dispatcher. I don't think I've ever heard this man yell in the 4 or 5 years that I've worked with him. He just always very even keel. And I got to watch him work, and he was just very like good at his job. And it was awesome to watch him like talk people down, reason with irrational people, work hot calls. And it was just a really great experience that I walked out from that sit-along. And if you are a department who does not do sit-alongs or does not value sit-alongs, I urge you to change your mind. I urge you to advocate for them, because I really do think they are moments for folks going through this process where they're just not quite sure what it is. Because you can tell someone to your blue in the face what this job is, and they're never going to get it until they see it. And I think that's what the sit-along does. And for me, I was like, oh, I'm in it. Like, this is going to be great. I mean, this is going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy this. It's going to be hard, but I'm committed. After my sit-along, I was really excited for it.
Yeah.
And I would imagine her.
That's definitely when the light bulb shines, right?
Yeah. 1,000%. And I think that for some folks, the light bulb goes, oh, no.
And better now than having to go through that training and then get in there and realize that this is not for me, So it's okay. It's not for everybody, right? It does take a special person to do this job. And so finding that out in the front half is probably better than going through all that training, learning all those type codes, being in the academy, and then finding out that this is not for you.
Yeah. And I still remember the first day of my academy, our instructors, still really good friends now, they literally like walked up to the front, and they like had this paper, and they were like, it cost X amount of dollars to get you here. I was just like, what? And they're like, we don't want you to fail. You guys are expensive. What can we do to help you be successful through this academy? And every week, talk about like getting close with your academy mates. Like, we had to pass our test of like 80% weekly. And so it's like every week we go in there like, still employed. We're still employed this week. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to like touch in on like, you guys said you guys have a really upscale academy. Like, what kind of tools do you have in there? Do you guys like have a live like a live CAD environment, like folks get to take practice calls and radio, because we kind of had we had a radio room, and we had this computer CAD room that we could put fake calls out as well too. So is that kind of the setup you guys have over there?
Yeah. So everybody has to go through, if you put in, for like Laura said, we have 2 classifications. So if you come in and are hired as a radio dispatcher, everybody has to go through our basic academy, because every radio dispatcher can call take, right? So we have to be able to pull from that. If we're short on call taking, then we're going to pull a radio dispatcher.
Makes
so
sense.
everybody goes through that 8-week academy. And we are post certified, so you have to do all your post courses. We have a lot of San Jose specific courses. A lot of, your missing persons unit will come in and talk. Your DV unit will come, officers, detectives from the DV unit will come in and talk.
Yeah.
Laura comes in and talks about the dispatch response team. Just, a lot of things that they're going to have interactions with the department. Tests every week. Like you said, there is 1 week where you have to get 100% test. So
That's terrifying.
Right? There's a retake. It's doable, right? There's too many people because of that test. And then at the end of that, there's a graduation. I mean, we have a huge graduation that they, we talk about being, proud to wear your patch. You get your badge. Your family comes and pins that badge on you, just like the officers, right? So we go through a full graduation. Then they go back to the floor with their training officer. Those who have signed up for radio dispatch, once they get signed up for call taking, come back to the radio academy. 5-week radio academy, go back out to the training. And so dispatchers are in training longer than officers.
Yeah.
It's about a 2-year process. So, and that's
on probation at my lateral agency.
Yes, right. That just tells you, right, how in depth the job is, and how critical it is. And those are the skills that you need to build upon. So I think that, like Laura said, we have one of the best training programs around. A lot of people model their training programs after, our agency. We take pride in that. And just remembering, everybody, like where you came from, where you started, and being humble about that, right? And that not mattering, you're a radio dispatcher. Well, just because of the 2 positions doesn't mean that one is better than the other, right? We need both in order for this agency to function.
I need both options for my mental health. I got to take a break from my officers. I got to take a break from my citizens.
Yes.
I need sometimes I need a little break. One could be annoying more than the other one day. It just doesn't, just depends.
Yeah. And they do, and they take 2 different sets of skills, right?
Yeah.
So you're constantly keeping things sharp, and you're, just keeping your skill set in a place that's just going to keep growing and getting better. And, people in the event that, life gets in the way, and, people leave because they move or because they go through life changes. I mean, these are skills that, not everybody has. And if they do decide to, go somewhere else, or if life pulls them in a different direction, I mean, it's a pretty intense and unique skill set, for them to be able to take with them, if they find themselves in that situation. But most people, I think, once they get bit by the dispatch bug, I think that they kind of stick around. It's a little weird obsession, I think.
No, for sure. And I did want to touch base on, you mentioned a couple times your dispatch response team. I think that a lot of folks who are getting into this line of work aren't aware of all the different ways dispatchers can be utilized in departments. And I imagine your response team might be like your tactical dispatch. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that looks like with your department, and kind of what side options this could be for potential recruits to get involved with eventually when they meet whatever requirements you guys have to be able to join your
it's been in place for quite some time, and as one of the bigger agencies in the area, we do have the biggest team. I think right now we're holding at about 12 people. But it's a collateral assignment. I mean, it's just something else that you can do, that you can take your skill set and put them in a little bit of a different environment, but again, forcing you to kind of like put your roots in a little bit deeper and be more invested. We obviously go out with our our SWAT team is called Merge. So we get called out with Merge. We go out able to work out in the field with them. We have a command van that we'll dispatch out of, and it's, obviously like high risk, any type of high risk, sometimes serving high risk search warrants, barricades, hostage rescues, officer involved shootings. Sometimes we'll go out there, but there's a lot of different ways that we kind of, different reasons that we would kind of mobilize to go out. We do a lot of training with them, and all the training we could bring that into the control room. And again, it's just a little bit more layered of knowledge. And, just to kind of build on. And if you're a CTO, you also get to train a little bit more in that area, right? To, just make your dispatcher a little bit more well-rounded with some of these more high risk, low frequency kind of events. Probably one of the things that I think is most enjoyable for us is when we actually get to go and assist another agency. And we have been called upon for those kind of things. One of the things that we did not too long ago was for the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting. When that happened, that was such a large crime scene. They were running a 24-hour command post while they had to grid search the entire park. So they did ask for us to come and help staff their command post. And what a tragedy, right, for our sister city. So it was no brainer to go out and help them and just show up for them so that they could have some relief and take a break. Being on a command post for 24 hours is not easy. So those kind of things, that's the awesome stuff. That's the awesome stuff of like representing our department in all ways, that we can. They appreciated it. Their chief wrote us all letters after saying how thankful he was for all the agencies that showed them so much love and support during such a critical time for their city. So, it's a lot of different things, but it's a collateral assignment. And that's probably the hardest part about it is you can pull a full 10-hour shift in the control room. And while you're in there, there's this barricade calls cooking, and you're like, I'm not going to go home because I think by the time I get home, I'm going to get that page and I'm going to have to turn around and go. So, you kind of just roll with it. Yeah. But that's the hardest part. That's what I think. The hardest part is the collateral expectation to go from one to the other. Because you are tired. It's not easy, but it's something different. It's something different to do. And I think for longevity purposes, it's not a bad idea to have a tool belt with a lot of different things you can do and keep things a little different environment, little different energy. And again, being able to bring that to the control room and share that, it just puts your knowledge just a little bit up there, a little bit more layers. And that's a good thing for everybody.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing about tactical dispatch or dispatch response teams is you get a different view of, it's you get to kind of see what's happening during all that dead air time, right? Like that's happening, what I've learned, 1, 2, 3, 4 side. I learned that from a tactical dispatcher, cause it's not always something you get taught in dispatch because we don't look at the house, we're not looking at the house. So you just kind of learn these little things that SWAT and C&T, tend to deal with more than say we do in our centers from being a part of tactical dispatch or sitting with a tactical dispatcher and just kind of seeing how they would view a situation. Because a lot of our tactical dispatchers at SAC, they would know how to set a perimeter up. And for us, our canines were the ones who would typically set up the perimeters, but because of their experience out there doing that job, they could look and be like, okay, they're going to go there. And they could kind of pre-plan before the unit would start putting out the spots. So just the knowledge you get from going out into the field for that time with these big responses, barricades, things like that. It's just a different view and lens that you get to see as a dispatcher. That's an awesome opportunity for any dispatcher to, because you can do it for a short amount of time. You don't have to do it forever, right? It's typically
I think we normally want a 2-year commitment from folks, and I mean, they don't happen all the time. So you could go 6 months and not go to one, or, you know, you can have the curse of 3, which everything happens in 3s. You get
That
one,
is
and
so true.
you get another one in a week, and then you're dead for, you're dead for 5 months, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know, a 2-year commitment will get you out to 1 or 2, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if it's something you like, you can stay. It's not, you don't have to move off of it after 2 years if you don't want to. But it's all just more stuff. It's just more opportunity to get better, and it pushes, to me, I think it can also push you into those other roles of like being a CTO, you know, a mentor. We have a mentorship program. We do people that mentor our new guys coming in to help, you know, get them acclimated to the room. And it's just different opportunities for everybody to have. And like you said, if they choose to take it, there are some that are very happy to come and just put in their 10 hours and their overtime requirements, and they're fantastic dispatchers and call takers. And that is enough. That's absolutely enough. But if you want to do a little bit more, if you want to, you know, dig in a little deeper, we can do that too. We can absolutely do that. So yeah, it's kind of an awesome thing.
Yeah. And do you guys only do police, or do you guys police, medical, and fire, or just police dispatch at the department?
We dispatch for PD, and when people call for medical, we transfer them into fire. Our fire dispatchers are in the room right next to us.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do is transfer to fire. I don't want nothing to do with it. That's you guys. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
You guys are on the same building. That, I imagine that's helpful, especially on big events.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all in the same building. I mean, we're in different rooms, so we are. There is that, you know, 3 degrees of separation, so to speak. But I mean, yeah, I mean, and we're a big agency, so I mean, bringing in, you know, over 1 million calls a year, and probably running about, I would say on average, 11 to 1,200 calls for service a day. You know, it's a beast. And
what's your guys' minimums on the floor for radio?
So on radio, we run 8 radio channels.
Woo!
Yeah. We run 8.
That was big.
8 radio channels. We have 2 relief positions. We have 2 service positions that answer backup lines. That's on a fully staffed day. If we have a little bit more, we might even have a party channel open where people can just go over and run parties only. Those days we haven't seen that in a while because of staffing, but that's always an option if we have a couple extra bodies. And our minimum on the floor is we run about 15 to 16 call takers around the clock, pretty much. That's our midnight shift is a little bit more skeleton, but 15 to 16, 17, 18 is a nice number where it can kind of, you know, the call volume is steady, but it's might not be just being pounded call after call after call after call, because that's a lot. That's a lot for anybody.
It's not fun.
No.
So you guys have an opening currently you guys are recruiting for, or how can folks find it? Is there any informational website they can go to? Anything like that?
Yeah, so we are hiring call takers and dispatchers. And if you go to our website, SJPDYOU, so SJPDU.com, the application is there, or the city website, our City of San Jose website.
Awesome. So my famous question that I ask everybody before we wrap up is, what advice would you give someone considering a career in dispatch?
Do it.
Don't ask questions, just apply.
Yes. Yeah. It's a commitment. It's a you know, like a couple people say, like, you know, I came into this job as a stepping stone, yet we're still here, right? We took a huge pay cut. So it's not for the money, right? Once you get in there, it is for the love of the job, for what you do, the reward of helping the citizens, the friends that you gain, right? The family that you gain. But I honestly think like it's one of the best careers that you would ever have.
Definitely. Totally agree. Laura, your advice to a potential dispatcher?
My advice, I mean, I think is, even not for a dispatcher, but you should always be doing something that you're passionate about. And you have to be honest with yourself about that, right? You have to have those honest conversations. And, you know, when your inner voice talks to you about what you want to do, like, listen to it. And if passion is in the service of others, whether it is in law enforcement, in the medical field, any kind of first responder, you should do it. And being a dispatcher is a incredible way to do that without being so hands-on. And because a lot of people love the idea of the helping others, but the hands-on part, I don't know that I want to carry a gun. I don't know that I want to deal with injured, people or blood. So this is a way to be absolutely a part of it. They are absolutely a part of the police team without having to do that. You do have the safety aspect removed because you're in a safe room, right? But you will absolutely get to have that passion tank filled up if that's where you find yourself to be. And give it a shot. You never know. You learn a lot of incredible things about yourself when you put yourself to these kind of tests of what can I handle? What kind of control can I have over just my own emotions, and how do I take care of myself? You're forced to look at those kind of things. And for me, I think you can make the best out of it and make your life even better if you pay attention to all that kind of stuff, right? Instead of letting it tear you down. And we know that the dispatch career can absolutely tear you down, but there is also ways to kind of reflect back and really look at like the growth just as a person and, the legacy, right? Tonia talked about that with her family. Legacy is huge. I mean, in families, I have 2 daughters. I want them to be proud of me. I want them to be like, my mom worked hard and she did something that she was passionate about. It doesn't matter what it is. So for me, those are the kind of things that are important. Those are the things I focus on. And, in just trying to keep myself healthy mentally, it's very easy for me to spread that out onto the floor to the new people, to the people that have been there a while, to the people that are feeling burnt out. It doesn't matter because there's a way to be a great dispatcher and be healthy, mind, body, and soul too. You can have all of that. And I think it's an incredible career, a well-rounded, incredible career.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And I loved learning about an agency that's so local and close to me, San Jose Police Department. And we're going to include all that contact information, email, websites for everyone to check out who are looking to start a career or, hey, lateraling is a thing. It happens.
Yep.
So we'll definitely include all that information in the notes so anyone can reach you guys and get in touch with you if they have any other questions.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'm going to kick you out respectfully and I'll be right back. Okay. All righty, guys, that was another episode here at Let's Talk Dispatch. Again, if you're in the Bay Area, California, and you're looking for a job, a role, a career, be a 911 dispatcher, look into it. Check out agencies like San Jose Police Department, who are not only hiring, but are really pushing a very healthy relationship between their departments and their dispatchers with multiple other opportunities outside of answering the phones to get connected to the community that they are serving in the department that they are working for. Thank you again, guys, so much for joining me. Until next time, stay raspy. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Let's Talk Dispatch. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube at The Raspy Dispatcher, follow us on Instagram, and check out Let's Talk Dispatch anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'll see you next time and stay raspy.